He stood on stage with the confidence of a man who believed every word he spoke was truth carved in stone. The microphone hummed, the lights washed him in bright white, and all around him sat more than 200 people packed into old wooden seats that held generations of memories. The room breathed like one giant chest, slow and tense. You could hear shoes scrape, program papers fold, someone cough under their breath. No music, no noise, just eyes, locked forward. Dr. Charles Wilford, a historian with polished shoes and polished pride, spoke with the tone of someone who never questioned himself. He paced slowly, chin high, carrying himself like knowledge itself had chosen him as a vessel. He told the room that black people contributed little to the progress of civilization, said it as casually as one might recite the alphabet, said it like it was harmless, factual, undeniable. His voice never shook, not even when a few people gasped. He didn't pause. He didn't blink. He believed the words belonged to him. My name is Simmons, and you are watching Chronicles of Black. If you're feeling what you're hearing, I want you to subscribe right now, because stories like this deserve to be heard. Leave a comment. Tell me how these words hit you, because silence is how lies survive. Back in that auditorium, silence was also the cage that kept people sitting still. Some stared at the historian with disbelief. Others looked at the floor like they'd heard this before, and were too tired to fight it again. A few shook their heads, lips pressed tight. But in the middle of that room sat Minister Louis Farrakhan, older, calmer than the fire in him, but that fire lived behind his eyes. He didn't shift in his seat. He didn't frown or speak. He just watched, and listening to him breathe felt heavier than Wilford's whole speech. Farrakhan's mind moved like thunder building behind clouds. The historian wasn't just wrong. He was repeating a sickness that had been fed to classrooms, textbooks, and children for too long. Erasing black hands from inventions, erasing black minds from science, erasing black people from the foundation they helped build. It was violence without a gun, history woven into a lie, polished and presented as education. Wilford kept talking. He claimed Africans arrived unskilled, claimed progress in America happened without the help of black genius, claimed suffering built nothing. He spoke like he was reading from an ancient scroll, like he was unveiling secrets instead of stabbing memory. Every sentence tightened the air. People crossed their arms. Others leaned forward, as if waiting for someone, anyone, to stand. Farrakhan barely blinked. He wasn't angry the way fists get angry. He was angry the way a lion waits, silent, patient, knowing the moment is coming when quiet becomes impossible. He knew this was not just about facts. It was about dignity, about stolen credit, about how history bends to protect those who write it. It was about the audacity to call a people worthless while standing on roads they paved, using technology they helped conceive, quoting documents they bled for. It was about memory, and how easy it is to bury the truth when the ones who lived it were never allowed to speak. Farrakhan inhaled once, deep and steady. The crowd didn't yet know, but something was shifting. A pulse, a spark, a quiet promise that this night would not end with lies sitting comfortably on stage. And the moment Wilford paused to sip water, still smug, still certain of himself, a chair slid back. Wood scraping wood, not loud, but sharp enough to cut through the room. Louis Farrakhan stood up. He rose slowly, like a man who carried time itself in his spine. No rush, no stumble, just purpose. The room felt at first the air changed before a word left his mouth. People turned, eyes following the movement as if gravity itself shifted toward him. Farrakhan didn't look at the audience. He looked only at the man standing under the spotlight, the one who held history like a weapon. His voice came calm, but sharp enough to cut through pride. Who gave you the right to reduce a people you never lived as, never suffered as, never understood? The words hit harder than any shout could. The historian blinked, surprised by the softness carrying such force. A few people in the front row gasped under their breath. Someone pressed record on their phone without taking their eyes off the stage. Wilford tried to smile it off. A little smirk, the kind a man uses to hide the tremble behind his confidence. I'm simply presenting research, he said, pretending not to feel the shift happening in front of him. But Farrakhan wasn't done. He stepped forward, every footfall steady like a drumbeat of truth. Research, he echoed, written by men who never asked the enslaved how it felt to have their genius sold for scraps. Written by men who took the inventions of black minds and signed their own names at the bottom. He didn't need a microphone. His voice carried because truth carries on its own. He spoke of his father, working 3 jobs just to keep light in the house and hope on the table, working until his hands cracked and bled, but still walking with dignity. He spoke of his grandmother who survived Jim Crow, who kept her back straight even when the world tried to bend it. She learned to read in secret, because knowledge was dangerous when held by the wrong skin. Someone whispered Lord. Another nodded, eyes glossy with memory. Farrakhan's voice grew stronger, like generations were speaking with him. You say we built nothing, yet you drive on roads our labor paved. You heal with medicine taken from black bodies without consent. You run factories designed by hands you would not even look in the eye. The historian tried to interrupt, but every syllable died against the wall of truth in front of him. Farrakhan raised one hand not to silence, but to hold the moment still. My people were not empty pages waiting for you to write their worth. They were scholars when Europe was learning to hold a pen. They built kingdoms. They built music. They built memories strong enough to survive chains. Murmurs rolled through the crowd like thunder. Black elders sat taller. Young people held up phones, capturing history, reclaiming itself. Even those who came unsure now leaned forward, breath caught, hearts awake. Farrakhan's voice shook, but it was not fear. It was weight, the kind that comes from carrying stories too heavy for one lifetime, the kind that refuses to stay buried. You did not erase us, he said. You only delayed the truth. And tonight, it stands in front of you. The room felt wired with electricity, anger, pride, power rising like heat from the floorboards. And for the first time that night, Dr. Wilford had no statistics to hide behind, no book to quote, only silence thick enough to taste. Farrakhan didn't rush. He let that stillness grow, until even the walls leaned closer. Then he spoke again, slower, deeper, a voice reaching backward through time. You stand here and tell us we added little to the world, he said, yet you live in a country that survives off inventions you refuse to credit. He lifted one hand like memory itself sat upon it. You mention cotton, but never the hands that bled to pick it. You mention industry, but never the enslaved who built its foundation. You teach chains, but never brilliance, bondage, but never genius. Wilford's arrogance wavered. His shoulders drew inward. His eyes flickered like a flame struggling for air. Farrakhan paced, slow and controlled. Benjamin Banneker built clocks with precision that astonished those who doubted his humanity. He helped survey the capital of this nation, yet his name is a whisper in history books. A tear slipped from someone in the front. Farrakhan continued, voice gentle and fierce. Henrietta Laxell's taken from her body, multiplied across the world, saving lives. Hospitals profited, research flourished, but her family received nothing. Her story, stolen like so many others. A woman cried quietly. Another clenched her fist. You speak from balconies, Farrakhan said, stepping closer, while the people who built the house lived beneath the floorboards. You write history from safety while we lived it in scars. The historian opened his mouth, but the truth in the room was too heavy to speak through. Farrakhan's tone softened only in volume, not in force. Black soldiers fought wars for a flag that denied them seats at its table. They died heroes overseas, returned home labeled threats. Wilford tried to defend himself, but only a brittle sound escaped. No one leaned forward to hear it. Farrakhan turned the conversation toward living pain. Have you ever taught your son how not to die at a traffic stop? The historian froze. His eyes trembled. Have you ever prayed at a doorway waiting for your child to come home because his skin makes him guilty before proven anything? The room shook in silence. A young woman stood, voice trembling but unbroken. My brother did everything right. Handsvisible.com/respectful. He still didn't come home. Tears fell openly now. An elder rose next. My grandparents picked cotton for free while America got rich. They carried a nation on their backs and never saw a dollar from it. Wilford shrank under a tears full of truths he never had to feel. His research, his notes, his statistics now looked like paper shields in a storm. He tried again to speak, voice thin, barely human. I didn't mean, but truth had already filled the room. It wasn't a debate anymore. It was collective memory rising. Farrakhan stepped toward him, not as an enemy, but as a mirror. We don't speak to shame you. We speak to restore what was taken. His voice softened into something powerful and calm. Black brilliance built kingdoms before chains. Black minds created, dreamed, endured what should have ended us. We survived because we are more than history was willing to write. Wilford stared at the floor, a man forced to rethink a lifetime of comfort. The paper in his hands no longer carried weight. Farrakhan spoke to everyone now. History is power. If you tell it wrong, you cripple the future. But when truth stands, generations stand with it. He didn't wait for applause. He stepped down, shoulders steady, breath full, not victorious, but restored. The historian watched him walk, and something inside him cracked. Through the crack, light entered. People rose to leave, taller than when they arrived. They didn't win an argument, they remembered themselves. Because black brilliance is older than chains, stronger than lies, too bright to be buried. Tonight, it rose again.